everybody, I'm KC, and welcome to an edition of Let's Talk About, and welcome to the latest installment of To Infinity War and Beyond. And before we jump full force into the Infinity War, it's time for a brand new franchise to impact the MCU unlike any other with Black Panther. Returning to the nation of Wakanda to take his place as king, T'Challa, played again by Chadwick Boseman, takes pride in taking over the mantle of not just king, but the Black Panther. But just when he thinks he's got everything figured out, outside forces will pull the rug out from under him and change the land of Wakanda forever. Again, where do you start with this one? Not only was this movie very highly anticipated after Panther's amazing debut in Civil War, but even though people were excited about this for a lot of different reasons, I don't think anyone expected it to garner such acclaim and a huge cultural impact almost instantly. Let's start with the thing that instantly catches your eye. The nation of Wakanda, which is freaking gorgeous. Like Doctor Strange, it introduces you to a whole new part of this world that no one realized existed, except for a quick side mention.
Wakanda.
And gives a believable reason for why we've never heard of it before. It expands on the history and lore, while at the same time not contradicting it. The blend of incredibly advanced technology with traditional African culture is pretty perfect. From the costume design, to the set pieces, to the visual effects, it gives a real air of technology more innovative than anything else in the world that doesn't consume the culture it landed in, but rather was built around it while keeping their traditions and society alive. I have to give real props to the creative team on this one because everything in this movie is beautiful and so well detailed. T'Challa may be a somewhat obscure Marvel hero to mainstream audiences, but I don't think I've ever met anyone who knew who this guy was and didn't think he was awesome. That's exactly how I felt when I first saw him in Earth's Mightiest Heroes, and that was just a taste of T'Challa's world and character. This is the whole package. And because this movie may have the largest supporting cast of a Marvel first installment so far, let's go through them before we get to our main hero and villain. Probably the characters who stand out the most in the supporting cast are the three leading ladies, or as I like to call them, T'Challa's angels. Starting with the head of Wakanda's Special Forces, Okoye, played by Danai Gurira. She's stern, stoic, but very passionate. She sticks to the code and duties of the Dora Milaje and will do whatever it takes to protect Wakanda and its way of life. And she has a very interesting arc from following blindly because that is her duty, to being forced to decide what is truly right for her people. What makes her stand out to me is that she's not stoic and badass because she's detached or angry or a strong independent woman who don't need no man. In fact, she's married. Usually a fictional character is like this because they were scorned or wronged, but here it comes from passion, from the desire to do her job well and protect what she loves, and I love that. Nakia, played by Lupita Nyong'o, is a spy and T'Challa's ex-girlfriend? Okay. Now, as I'm writing this 2 months after I saw the movie, I'm honestly having trouble forming an opinion on Nakia. I remember she was determined and outspoken and was instrumental in leading T'Challa's friends in his absence in the third act, but as far as outstanding distinct character traits compared to the other two, I'm struggling to recall anything. It's possible that'll change when I see the movie again, but for now, she's fine, but nothing special. And I think was only in the movie because at the time, T'Challa's actual love interest was still on by Fox. But my favorite supporting character, hands down, is Shuri, played by Letitia Wright, who's our resident tech whiz and T'Challa's sister. Shuri is clever and funny and excited all the time, and I want her to be my best friend. I've mentioned before that Marvel is not exactly short on tech geniuses, but Letitia Wright brings such an energized performance as Shuri that makes me just as excited and passionate about what's going on as she is. But the moment Shuri won me over for good was in the final battle, where it's revealed that her weapon of choice is kittens for fists. This is my everything. The only other major Wakandan character is M'Baku, played by Winston Duke, who I didn't even think was going to be in this movie. I'm only familiar with M'Baku from EMH, where he was a full-on villain, so I wasn't expecting him to be a respected leader and even have some decent moral ground. And in the end, M'Baku turned out to be a really memorable, reluctant ally. Not to mention Duke's deliveries are just excellent.
One more word, and I will feed you to my children. I'm kidding, we are vegetarians.
Then there's our fish out of water, so to speak, Everett Ross, played by Martin Freeman, who also debuted in Civil War. Some people have joked that he wasn't really necessary, but I like how they incorporated him into the story. Also, I really love Martin Freeman, so more of him in a movie is okay by me. He's the first big example of T'Challa putting compassion over his nation's secret when he takes him to Wakanda to save him from a bullet he took for Nakia. And it would have been easy to make him useless comic relief, or to have him campaigning to make Wakanda's resources public to the point of antagonizing. And while there is some of that, he grows to love Wakanda and its people, and becomes an essential member of the team in the final battle. I really like seeing him become a true member of Team Panther. But with so many great heroes, there needs to be great villains, and this movie's got two. The first being Ulysses S. Claw, played by Andy Serkis, who, fun fact, was cast in this part through the suggestion of a fan online, and who also previously appeared in the MCU in Age of Ultron, where they brilliantly set up his cybernetic arm after Ultron cut his actual one off. Yeesh. You know, now that I'm saying all this out loud, Black Panther's world was set up in previous movies more than probably any other Marvel solo film. They must have had high hopes in this one for a while. Anyway, Claw is devious, greedy, and completely amoral. He's only out for himself and his profits. Serkis is magnificent in this role and makes Claw probably the closest thing to a traditional evil for evil's sake villain in the MCU, but in a way that just bursts with personality like your favorite Saturday morning cartoon villains. I'd say I'm looking forward to seeing more of him, but he's dead now, so yeah. Not gonna lie, that made me a little sad. But while Claw was a great villain, he doesn't hold a candle to one of the most praised characters in any MCU film ever. Eric Killmonger Stevens, played by Michael B. Jordan, also known as the second Human Torch in the MCU before we get an actual MCU Human Torch. Eric has been getting a lot of attention and praise since the movie came out, and I can't say it isn't well deserved. As I've been marathoning these, I noticed that Phase 3 has really upped the quality of villains in these movies, and the pinnacle of that is Killmonger. We all know the phrase, the greatest villains are the ones who don't believe that they are villains, and no Marvel villain embodies that more than Killmonger. Not only is Jordan's performance exceptional throughout, and he is most definitely a threat, but the thing that's got everyone talking about him is his motives. Now, it's not like Marvel movies haven't tackled big topics before. Corrupt government abusing power, war profiteering, existential identity, and the limits and potential of humanity, it's nothing new. But what makes it so memorable in Black Panther, I think, is how it's tied so deeply and personally with the characters and their history. Civil War had a similar approach, but not to a subject that is incredibly relatable to many audience members. I'm not going to go too deep into the overarching theme of this movie because there are plenty of other people who have covered that much better than I could, but it deserves all of this dissection. The way they address the racial oppression in the rest of the world and how the secluded and privileged nation of Wakanda did nothing to assist the world with their innovations was something I did not expect to see tackled, especially in Panther's first movie. Again, showing the selfish actions of a monarch nation is nothing new for Marvel. It was tackled in the movie right before this one. But with Killmonger, it's incredibly personal. And even though we've been getting great villains lately, not since Loki have we seen a man's slow and tragic transformation into something evil because of how the world treated him so poignantly. Eric is fueled by pure vengeance, not just for his father, but for the injustice brought to most of his race. He may have a good point when he talks about oppression and how selfish Wakanda has been, but it's so buried in his hatred towards his homeland and the blood on his hands he got to get this far that's become extremism. In fact, with the exception of Hela, Killmonger is the villain who comes the closest to actually winning, and in a way, he still does. And to explain how, let's finally talk about the true king, T'Challa. We got quite a memorable introduction to the Black Panther in Civil War, but now we get to see T'Challa on his home turf, interacting with his friends and family, and feeling the weight of his new mantle as king as his nation faces a major crisis. What I always found appealing about Black Panther is how cool and collective he was, no matter what the situation, and Boseman really emanates that perfectly. He's both charismatic and regal, calm and noble, but able to put up a real fight, faces the responsibility of running his nation head on, but you could still feel his inexperience. That beautiful scene with the spirit of his father, his confrontations with Eric and uncovering the truth about his connection to him, it shows something I didn't think I'd see in T'Challa. Doubt. This may be one of the most demanding lead roles for a Marvel hero yet, but as is par for the course in the MCU casting, Boseman makes it look easy. And as I wrap up, I want to take a minute to touch on something that I haven't really seen anyone else cover, and that's the relationship between T'Challa and Eric. And I don't mean the fact that they're cousins, I mean how he approaches Eric and what he's fighting for. First and foremost, T'Challa is out to protect his homeland, and when he returns after being defeated in battle by Killmonger, all of that doubt in taking the throne is gone. He is ready to save his people from being forced to commit mass murder. But that doesn't mean he doesn't understand where Eric is coming from. Let's go back to Civil War. Throughout the whole movie, T'Challa is out to avenge the death of his father and turns out to be hunting someone who wasn't responsible for it, but for the majority of the story, chooses revenge anyway. Does that sound familiar? The moment when he finds Zemo and puts it together that he was responsible for T'Chaka's death, there is no one around. He could have killed him right then and there, but he didn't. He reflects on how he let his grief rule his thoughts and guide his actions, and almost did something unforgivable to the wrong person. I think that scene and his arc in Civil War is more significant than people give it credit for. Yes, Killmonger and T'Challa do end up fighting each other because Eric won't be stopped and went way too far to accomplish his goal, but on some level, he takes Eric's grievances to heart because deep down, T'Challa understands. He knows what it's like to be fueled by revenge, and he saw what people who are fueled by the same losses are capable of before he went too far. Killmonger didn't, and that's what ends up destroying him. But T'Challa has developed enough compassion from that incident to grant Eric a final request, in one of the most beautiful scenes in the entire movie. He even takes steps to make up for the neglect of his father and ancestors by making Wakanda's progress public and making an effort to create embassies all over the world, with the movie ending on a wonderful speech given to the UN offering Wakanda's knowledge and resources, and possibly changing the MCU going forward. Overall, there's good reason for why everyone's been gushing about this movie. With one or two exceptions, depending on who you ask, there hasn't really been any bad Marvel movies. Most of them have been enjoyable in some form or another. So to become even more successful than your predecessors, you'd have to do something truly special. And that is exactly what Black Panther did. On top of having a stellar cast and inventive and very cool action scenes, Black Panther celebrated the culture it both created and is emulating in a way that was accessible to all audiences, with excellent characters and challenging themes, and raised Black Panther's status from a great superhero movie to an iconic one. It's so great that with movies like this and Wonder Woman with diverse stars and creative teams, that as the superhero genre continues to flourish, there can possibly be a superhero out there for everyone in the world of cinema. Well, enough of the sappy stuff, I did it! Despite getting sick twice, my Wi-Fi getting knocked out for days, and a time limit that went out the door weeks ago, there it is. One full review of every single Marvel movie. At the moment, that is. Because all of this has been building up to a cinematic event unlike any other, which we will cover next time on To Infinity War and Beyond.